This weekend is going to be my first tournament for 2023. It'll be an A tier called the Maricopa Open, and it'll be the first time I'm playing MPO, so it'll have some touring pros there like Marweed, Aaron Gossage, Anthony Barella, and so that'll be my first time playing in a tournament and against the same level as them. And so we're here today to do an in the bag before I start. A few people messaged me, asked me to do that, and so I thought it'd be a fun idea to do it. So made some good coffee this morning, got that ready, and brought my bag out. But one thing I didn't do was bring a chair, so that's gonna be a little annoying having to move around a bit, so forgive me. But we're gonna start off with putters, putting putters. For my putting putters, I just use these EXO Links. I'm really a big fan of those beaded putters, and so those are my two matching putting putters because it'll get in my head if I don't have matching ones. And then we get into my throwing putters. I have my favorite disc is the Sensei. I have this pink one. This is my #1 favorite. I use for anything 320 or under that I have a lot of room to work. There's practically no wind other than maybe a tailwind, so that's what I use this for. And then I have my more stable version. This one's for when there's a little bit more wind. Anything when there's wind involved, I won't throw these above 300. But I will throw them under that, and when there's wind involved, I'll approach with this or drive from the tee with this one. And then we get into some more. Another approach disc is my EXO Hard Tactic, but what I use this primarily for are 250 and under backhand, like just straight pushing with a nice soft fade at the end, or an approach forehand. And I realized that this EXO plastic will grab the ground a lot easier than the neoplastic, and it's a lot less stable than the Razor Claw 3. So that's my approach forehand disc. And then we're going to get into the mid-ranges. What is that? 5 of them. So we'll start off with what once used to be my anvil, but I replaced it with this Mystery Box Mutant. It does not have the swing that an anvil has. It just pushes and then dies. So, however, on backhand, it's extremely reliable when I do not want it to go right. And so it's not going to have the flare skip some might want, but I just decided I would use my FD3 for that. So that's my Mutant. I have an Origin. This is more of a utility disc. I've used it for uphill shots where I can hyzer it up a hill and then it flips flat and just pushes effortlessly. I don't have to really give it a whole lot. Or some crazy just big get out of trouble forehands. And then I have the Mindbender. This one I use for just more of your regular straight shot where I don't want as much movement as the Origin's going to give, but I don't want as much fade as something like the MD3 is going to give me. And then we get into my MD3, and so this one can handle a lot more torque. This will give me anything above 330 to about 360. It just kind of sits and dies. And then we go with a brand new Neo method when I really need to trust a mid-range between 270 to 350, and I need to trust it out over and out of bounds, or I need to swing it out around something and trust that it's going to come back and not just stall out. That's where I have this method. Now we'll get into the fairway drivers. So first we have the Essence. It's going to be for farther uphill shots where I can just hyzer it with the grade of the hill and then it's going to flip up flat and follow it, or I really have a tight window anywhere from between 330 to about 380. I will probably throw this. And the next instability is a Mystery Box FD, but this one will probably also be a narrow fairway type shot. And so I haven't used it a whole lot yet, just put it in my bag this morning, and so we'll see how that goes for this year, but it's a little nerve-wracking switching out discs. And then I have the last 7-speed is a new Neo Instinct, and just like with the Method, it's the most stable. And so I have this one for when I need something between 360 to 400, or I need to carry some water or some OB, 360 or higher, and I need to rely on it coming back and not just stalling out. So that's what I'll use this Instinct for. And then we get into an FD3. Now this is primarily a forehand disc that I need to go 260 to 300, but I need it to have a flare skip or a really significant flex. And then moving into the 9-speed, I just put this in and it bothers me because it's the only one I have, but I do have the CD1 now. It's the big brother to the FD1 or the FD, but it doesn't have as much movement, as a more straight or understable Enigma, which is also what I throw. But worries me because it's my only one, so hopefully they have some stock runs soon. Well, I guess now we're getting into the drivers, so I might as well pull them all out. Next we have the PD. Now I use this for 2 slots. I forehand this one. It's also more beat in. C lines are really usable and workable once they're beat in, which is really nice. But this PD is now my pushing straighter forehand, and this is probably my most reliable backhand disc from between 360 to 410 when conditions are not favorable. Now we're going to get into 2 of my more exclusively forehand discs. And I forehand this Signature Series Cloudbreaker because I don't have the strongest forehand, so I need something that's going to have some movement to it. And so for me that means it's going to be a forehand, or it's going to be a hyzer that's going to flip up and have some turn and then finish. Then I have this C-line, one of the earlier first C-line DD3s. For me this is also a bit more of a stable forehand. Now this is when more wind is involved. It's not going to go 370, may go 360 max. If there's wind involved, like headwind, left to right, right to left, or I'm throwing downhill, like with a downhill grade at all. Now this is just another utility disc. If there's even crazier windy conditions, I need an extremely reliable forehand swinging disc, or I need an extreme flexing forehand. And then we're getting into some of my only backhand drivers. So we're going to start with my more understable Enigma. This one is also a utility disc. This is my roller disc, but it's also so understable for some reason that I can throw it on a steep hyzer line. It'll flip up straight, push, and or still turn out, which is really crazy. And then we get into my little more stable Enigma. And this one I'll throw with a tailwind, or if I'm not really feeling like I'm throwing my more stable Enigma right, like I'm not having a lot of angle control with it, I'll go with this one. And then we get into my second favorite just next to that Sensei, and it's these just anomaly white Hucklag Enigmas. And this is my most overstable one. To me, this flies like a beat-in C-line DD3. And so this is my absolute bomber disc. This is the one I can throw the farthest. And then we get into my last 2. My Cloudbreaker 3s, my most stable drivers. Now this Cloudbreaker 3 is my most straight one. And that's not saying much because they're very stable. But this one is what I'll go to when it's too windy for me to feel comfortable with that Enigma, or I'm not feeling comfortable with my angle control on it with a hyzer flip. So I'll just throw this on a little bit of hyzer, low and flat. It'll flip up straight and hold it, and it'll almost never turn out unless I put it flat or on a little bit of a flex line. And so this one can go between 415 to 440. And then we get into this gray Cloudbreaker 3. And this one's the one where if all the earth is falling apart, then this is the one I'm going to throw, because into the wind and even with an anhyzer, it will flex out pretty fast and then have the fade I'm looking for. And so that is my bag, and we're going to see how this lineup does for me this weekend in Maricopa. I have no idea what things about documenting some average dude's tournament against a bunch of touring pros people want to know and watch. So if you have ideas for things I should be documenting for this weekend and things I should be making videos for, make sure to let me know in the comments so I can be sure to be ready for that. And yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are, and thanks for watching. See you guys next time.